Hi, and welcome to What.io tutorial 8. It will be about roles and teams. So, today we're going to talk about how What.io is a multi-user cloud solution. And this concept will be explaining about both the backend system, the back office and administration, and the CMS, what kind of roles you have there, what you're allowed to do, but also on the reading of data, what you're allowed to do. So we will look at the actual state of teams and roles in What.io from both of these aspects. And of course, as you see, we are totally committed to the 7R model with rethink, reduce, repair, reuse, refurbish, recycle, and actually reconnect. And this is part of how we think with the different roles and multi-user also. Multi-user basically means that you can be a multitude of people simultaneously in parallel working with a platform in the same team. So it's a real teamwork assignment. And you also have the ability to be as an individual, have different credentials with different brands, manufacturers, companies, consultancies at the same time. So it's a very advanced dynamic solution. So What.io as a whole, the back office is a complete content management system with this multi-user interaction. So as you might know from a DPP, you have different type of interaction points and documentation points, and you have to work with the technology and the platform to upload and build these DPPs in the system. And to do that, you have to have the appropriate credentials. So to work with What.io on the back office side, you need a connection to the internet, a computer, and a web browser. That's it. That's the only thing you need to have because everything is working on the side. However, you need to have authorization. You need to log in to get anything to work. And of course, owners of different teams with different DPPs need to give you access to enable you to work and author these DPPs in the system. So the cloud back office, it has everything for the DPP, from adding spare parts, building up the different type of product views for the different products that you're working on. And these are all built up in what we call teams. So a team is basically a product line, a product category, or a whole brand with thousands of products in that actual team. And that team itself have individual accounts, which is connected to the buildup of the DPPs. So in a way, there is 4 defined roles in our system. These roles are the upper category of roles. There can be additional subcategories and different settings about what you are allowed to do and what are you allowed to see of the data. But the basic 4 main ones are authors. These are, of course, content creators. These are DPP creators. They have the ability to edit, create new DPPs, update the DPPs, and they do that on the web, in the web browser, logged into the What.io application. And this is all back office work. Still, it's a multi-user environment. So just understand me correctly that you can be hundreds of people in at the same time working in these systems as authors. There is no limitation in our system that you can only be one at the same time. It's that everything runs in parallel. Then you can be a user, and user are more from the consumer perspective. You own a product. You want to understand more about your product by reading the DPP or getting some maintenance information or support and so on. So that's our definition about more individuals and consumer perspective users. You can also be a professional, and this is, of course, in the cycle of life of a product. There is maintenance, there is service, there might be recycling at the end of the life cycle. You can be selling the product, you can be a brand rep. And of course, there will be additional data, secret data, corporate data that you can be able to see if you have the correct credential or the correct role. There's also, of course, the beauty of DPPs with bidirectional work, where you can actually, from the field through an app or a microcontroller, update data on the DPP. And for that, you might have to have the correct credentials. But those we define as pros, professional. And the fourth one are machines. These are machine defined roles, basically IoT devices, microcontrollers like Incendo and Dolores, or other non human devices that are allowed to work through the DPPs. And of course, these devices are running their communication to what IO through API and not through, of course, a web browser in this case. So let's look at authors. Authors are typically computer genies, consultants, internal content developers and product managers, marketing and content people, and communication departments. These people have a lot of power because they can actually create and generate the DPPs. They can have different roles of authors and have a defined purpose, and they can have their own set of restrictions what they can do in the system. These authors are, of course, treated as individuals. So it's you that log in, just like you do for Google or Apple and so on. So you need to have your own individual login. You cannot have a generic login for the whole company. You're always an individual in the What.io system. But you can, of course, have thousands of individuals working for a company, sharing a team, and in parallel working with the system all the time. So the defining the minimum requirement and profile for an author is typically you upload a photo, you have your name, you have your email. And then you set up a profile, and there will, of course, be an administrator that will set the final restrictions for what you're allowed to do. But what's very important when you set up your profile is to enable two-factor authentication, to have a high level, required level of security, because that might otherwise hinder you from getting more advanced features in the system. The role of your profile is related to the team you're a member. So you can actually be logged in, work in one team and have certain type of credentials, but then you might be work as a consultant for another company where you have less authorization what you can do. The concept of teams is basically, as I mentioned, a product line or a full brand or a company's full product line. So the roles can vary from team to team as the different administrators in those teams allow you to have different type of credentials. So it's not that you have full power in one team and then in another team you also have full power. It is set by that actual team owner. So the team owner is above everything else. That's the person or the administrator, the super admin that have all the capabilities to actually set up new users and allow them to have the right credentials. The team owner is automatically the administrator. You can have multiple administrators too, and this is something the team owner will actually be in charge of. And of course, how to divide the internal structure, that's something that needs to be taken into account. It might be that the smaller company run all their products as one brand in one team. And then you can manage whatever your hundreds and thousands of products there. If you're a large organization, however, you might want to have hundreds of different teams covering regions, sub-brands, local variations, etc., etc. So it's very much individual choice in the company how you want it set it up. What.io is ready for it, and the team structure can be built as such. Here you see the managing role. So administrators, again, is the highest level of permission and can basically perform any action. The editor is the first content creator structure, and that basically will be your content specialists in your company or your consultants, which you can invite to the team. And they can then, of course, create new and existing and edit existing DPPs in the back office. And this will be probably in the back office the most common role in your team. And of course, the power of What.io solution that multiple people work together at the same time to update and work on the DPPs. This is very crucial. One group can for instance, build new templates and products. Another individual can update material data sheets and link material, and it's a real collaborative environment. So read-only is very limited to only view the data, and that's actually at the moment connected with the Whatio app for mobile phones. And if you said somebody read-only, they have the possibility basically to authenticate and validate that the product is genuine and is an authentic product and not spoofed or a fake product. Read-only is something we work on to build it more granular, depending on the future roles. So when you are a team owner and administrator, you can invite new members to join the team. And we still talk about the back office, the creation of the DPPs. And of course, you cannot log in without an invitation. It is an on-invitation only system for the back office and the creation of DPPs. The team owner and administrator can assign the correct role for each profile, and each individual have to accept the invitation. Otherwise, they will remain in a pending state. There is also a team menu, and in the team menu, when you log in, you can see which teams you are actively part of, and you can switch in the menu between the different teams to go in and work with different brands and companies. So it's the perfect scenario for IT consultants with Whatio, because you can go in and actively manage and assist your clients and your brands. And it's also, if you're a bigger company, your internal department of product management can also do this for different departments. And please bear in mind that the API itself is also sensitive for which team that is active. So even the API have the capability to switch teams if a device or a user can work with different teams. So there is a basic setting for users, which is funny because it's actually no setting at all. It means that you don't need to log in and the system will not ask who you are. That is the anonymous setting. And this is all the basic DPP information, the minimum requirement. It's reachable to enable a circular economy, and we want to do the best for the environment and get that product's lifespan to go on as long as possible. That's why we don't want it to be hindered by very complex registrations, downloading of apps, and these kind of things. It's tap without an app, and it will not record anything. There is no cookies. There's nothing actually happening in the background. So as an anonymous user, you're not logged in, you're not tracked, there's no cookies installed. You simply tap, bang, and you get the basic information. It works on Android, works on iOS, Apple iPhones, and then you get the basic product passport information. Obviously, there's more thing to DPP than this minimum information. There is both bidirectional input that the professional person can do, and there is, of course, more information which you need to have be logged in to see. And obviously, the user cannot update anything, no metadata, no field data. They cannot check authentication or anything like that. It's just basically reading the minimum requirement DPP data. So that's tap without an app. And as you see in this little picture, you also see that he's using the AI chatbot to talk to the product. And all these things you can do with a read-only user setting. So the read-only user setting is one level above the anonymous. Here you actually get some information and you can check that the product is real. So there is working through the Whatio app. So together with the Whatio app and the read-only setting, you have a little bit more information. And this is also where you can take the next step in a phase we're working on, that you become a registered owner of the product. You're still a user, you're still a consumer, but you own the product and you want to register it in your name, and you want to explain that to the blockchain or whatever it will be registered. And with this also in the future, you can transfer ownership and you can showcase that the product is fully authentic with a token system. There might be some additional features, direct access to VIP support, other hidden data properties available for registered owners. It can also work in different ways depending on which region you are based in. And it becomes like a self-registration process after you purchase a specific product. The professional, however, now we go a little bit deeper. And of course, this is people who work with these products, regardless if it's a dishwasher or if it's a speaker or any kind of building product or so on. There might be a lot of data which is intended for engineers, service engineers, maintenance people, logistics, resellers, and brand owners. And this data might be hidden from an consumer and hidden from an anonymous user. But that then you can use an app, or basically any app that can use the API, that can ask for access to these things. It can be spare parts, 3D printing capabilities, or it can even be upload of service and maintenance data for changing the filter on the HVAC unit, for instance. All this could then be added with a date and an individual stamp that now this action has been taken on this particular product, and that will be serviced and used through the API. Devices will also be its own role. So actually, we will give the device an identity and an individual identity. So these are roles assigned to the machines. So the machines have certain capabilities, and these might be quite different from what a human are allowed to do or not to do. They will interact solely through the Watayo API, and the role of the device will determine what they will have access to or not. And as mentioned in other episodes, the Incendo device is, of course, also something which interact with the Watayo API when a product is born, when a product is first set in motion and it gets its unique ID in the system. So that's basically what I had for you today. It's very important to understand this concept of multi-user cloud solution. It's not required to install any software to get going with Watayo. It's basically setting up your account, join a team or set up a new team, start building up in the CMS system your products, or import an Excel with all your products, and just get started. So we hope you got some good information about Watayo's cloud solution and how it works with users. And yeah, that was all for today. And thank you very much.